Hey everybody, it's Lance from CinematicGalaxy here, and today I'm going to review I believe the 7th Pixar film, Cars, which was released in 2006. Now, Cars actually was the first Pixar film. It got good reviews overall, a good rating, but it has a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. I guess a lot of people at the time felt that it was easily the weakest Pixar film. All the other ones were like in the 90%, and this one was like, it has like a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. The basic premise of Cars, it deals with, we're in a world that is completely inhabited by cars. Like everything is cars, even the maggots are cars. We have this hotshot, famous race car Lightning McQueen, who's one of the best out there. He's voiced by Owen Wilson, and basically this whole thing happens where he's being transported at night. And this whole kind of road incident happens where he gets knocked off course and he ends up landing on Route 66, which is obviously a very historical, famous highway in real life. And basically throughout this movie, he just becomes adjusted to, like, I guess, small town culture and whatnot. And he ends up really kind of examining himself personally and ultimately changing for the better. Now, to be honest, guys, when I first saw Cars back in 2006, I was 13 at the time, and I actually thought it was my favorite Pixar movie for a brief time. Keep in mind, I hadn't watched like the Toy Story movies, the first two. I hadn't seen them in a long time. I hadn't seen Monsters, Inc. or Finding Nemo in a while. And again, at that time, The Incredibles was my least favorite Pixar movie. So, Cars, for a brief moment of time, I actually thought it was my favorite Pixar movie. And upon rewatching Cars over the past few years, and even most recently, I definitely liked the film, but it's definitely not as good as it was that first time for me. But it's still a solid film, but it at least was my least favorite Pixar film until Cars 2, its sequel. Anyway, as usual, the thing with Cars that is immediately impressive is the animation. Just the way that all these cars shine, all the colors and everything. It's very well done and beautiful to look at. And the races and everything, they're just so exciting, so well done. Also, the soundtrack of this film, while it's not one of my favorite Pixar soundtracks, it does kind of fit this type of movie. It definitely captures the atmosphere well. There's a lot of country music in there, a lot of kind of, just kind of small town music like that, and it's fine for the film. It works. Anyway, on we get to the story and the characters. First of all, when I watch Cars now, I think that the story is good and the characters are good, but something about this universe isn't quite as appealing to me as the other Pixar films. I mean, obviously a lot of little boys and little girls think differently because a lot of them love cars and, you see them with Cars toys and everything, but I mean, something about this universe, just the fact that it's completely dominated by cars and, talking cars with eyes and tongues and stuff, something about it's not as interesting as toys that come to life in an otherwise real world. Or seeing what life is like in an ant colony, or seeing monsters that come out of closets, or fish under the ocean, or even, superheroes in The Incredibles. There's something about the fact that these are cars, talking cars, that it doesn't connect quite as well with me, and I'm sure a lot of other people feel this way as well. Overall, I'd say that the characters, they're pretty good. I mean, for one, I actually liked Mater in this film, unlike in Cars 2. All the Route 66 cars are overall, they're pretty interesting, just the way they're all different, and they're pretty fun characters. I mean, you grow to care for them as this film goes along. I really did like Doc Hudson, the Hudson Hornet, who's voiced by the late Paul Newman. I thought his character was very good. Sally, voiced by Bonnie Hunt, is, she's a good character. I really do like when Bonnie Hunt talks for these characters in the Pixar films. I love the energy she puts into the role. Lightning McQueen is not a likable character at the start at all, in my opinion. I mean, he's just very arrogant, very full of himself. Owen Wilson does do a great job of bringing that across, and maybe that's some of why I'm not the biggest Lightning McQueen fan. I understand that he was supposed to be kind of unlikable and annoying, but I don't know. That's something. I mean, I think he's easily the most unlikable Pixar character that we've gotten to so far in terms of the protagonist anyway. So it's kind of hard to connect with him, but in a way I also kind of think that's one of the film's strengths, because seeing how he changes is even more rewarding in that aspect. Overall, while this cast of characters is solid, they're just not as memorable or as classic as, you know, all the previous cast of characters and really all the previous Pixar films, from the Toy Story gang to A Bug's Life to you know, the monsters all in Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo and The Incredibles. I mean, the cast of characters doesn't really compare to those, but it's still solid, it still works. But that ultimately leads me to the story, and the story of this film, I think the story is very good because it is a personal journey for Lightning McQueen. But, you know, it's weird, I guess that kind of goes into one of the flaws of the film. Like, the strength and the flaws of this film kind of connect. Upon rewatching this film, it felt very long, you know, it felt like it dragged at several points in the middle. You know, it did get kind of uninteresting and boring, but at the same time it's kind of supposed to drag because it's supposed to feel like you're there for a long time as Lightning McQueen. It's really supposed to be a long kind of personal journey for him. So in a way it kind of helps the film that it feels long as well. So still, the fact that it drags though and doesn't feel that interesting is a minor kind of flaw. It still manages to work because you are on that personal journey with them and you are out in the middle of nowhere, and it does feel like that, so that's a good thing. But that leads me to something that doesn't quite work, and that is honestly the humor of this film. Now, when I first saw this film, I think I did find this to be quite a funny film. You know, my taste in humor is kind of, I like to think it's evolved over the past few years, and while there are some kind of, you know, jokes that I chuckle at here and there in this film, they're not awful jokes. They're just not that funny. You know, there's nothing in this film that is going to just make you laugh hysterically like in any of the previous Pixar films. I mean, all of those films have laugh out loud moments, and this film really doesn't. Actually, the only really laugh out loud moment in this film is at the end credits, honestly. You know, they have a whole blooper reel. We see Cars watching these different movies at a movie theater, and it's basically the other Pixar films, but in car form, and those scenes were actually pretty funny. Those are very inventive and creative. So yeah, the fact that the funniest part of this movie comes in the ending credits, I mean, it speaks for itself. However, ultimately what again makes Cars a good movie in my opinion, and what makes it pass in my opinion, is the heart of this film. This film does have heart now. You know, like all the previous Pixar films, this one definitely has heart. I cannot deny that. And the heart works, you know. By the end of this film, you are completely invested in it. You know, you feel the weight of the situation. You care for the characters, and you know, you see how Lightning McQueen changes, and it works. During that scene in the climax of the film where he decides that he's almost at the finish line, but he decides to go back and help that injured car, the King, I believe he was called, the old famous race car. That scene is very well done, and it really does show his character development, which I really like. I'm going to have to be honest with you guys as well. After seeing Cars 2, which again, if you really want to see what I thought about that film, you're more than welcome to check out my review on my channel. But honestly, Cars 2 makes me like the first Cars more than I did. I mean, really. You know, initially, I mean, before Cars 2, I felt that Cars was the weakest Pixar film, and now it's definitely still down there, but it's way above Cars 2. I mean, it's a lot better than Cars 2, believe me. I was emotionally dead by the end of Cars 2, but I cannot say I was with Cars. You know, just the whole story of Cars, the way it came together, you know, everything, the characters, you actually care for them in this film. And I actually like Lightning McQueen by the end of this film. I didn't even like him in Cars 2. Again, just the way it all comes together in this movie, it leaves you caring for them. I think that the best way to sum up Cars is that it's not state-of-the-art like the previous Pixar films. It's pretty average, you know. I mean, just in general it's average, but especially compared to those, it's really nothing special, but it's nothing bad either. And that's why I'm ultimately going to give Cars a B-. You know, I like this film. I think it's a good film. It's just not a great film. Anyway, guys, let me know. What do you think of Cars? Are you a bigger fan of it than I am, or do you feel the same, or do you like it less? And also, let me know, what's your least favorite Pixar movie? Mine before Cars 2 was this film, but currently is Cars 2. Anyway guys, stay tuned for my review of Ratatouille, and take care of yourselves. This is Lance with Cinematic Galaxy, signing off.